Good evening, gearheads, and welcome to your Sunday night with Speed City. And Happy New Year to everybody out there. This is our first show this year. This is John Mascale. Across from me is Jonathan Green. Jonathan, how is your New Year so far?
Short, just the 4 days. No, good. I feel refreshed. I am rested, actually. I went on holiday and I'm back, and I just feel in a weird way. I'm not going to New Zealand this time for the first time in a long time.
Yeah.
Which is both good and bad. Obviously, I miss it, but it means I can prepare for the year ahead rather than just hit the ground running back in February, which is what usually happens. But I'm going to miss out. But I will be following the Toyota Racing Series. That's for sure.
Yeah, we'll talk about it tonight.
We've got three Americans. Yeah, we've got three Americans involved.
Yeah, we got lots of stuff to talk about. There's, I guess, mostly Formula One.
Sure.
We're going to talk about some of the new things that are happening this year, because it is an epic level of newness in Formula One this year, probably more than ever.
And the other thing is, you might think, oh, March, Australia, miles away. But actually, the first launch is next week.
I know. It's crazy.
Yeah,
and we'll get into all the launches next week. There's a Cadillac announcement coming that we're
tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll talk about that here in a minute. What little we know.
I think that social media post pretty much says it all.
It pretty much, but we don't know for sure. But it's good. It's fun the way they're doing stuff. And we'll talk some more about Cadillac. I got a couple of things I want to talk about. But I think I want to start with, it's funny, Chris Medland's obviously not with us on our Sunday night show, just during the F1 season. But you flagged up a post that he put on, action article he put up on Racer, talking about the wish list for 2026.
Sure.
We're going to use that as a guide for the first part of the show here.
Perfect guide, in many ways.
Yeah. And I think the first one that he talks about, all of these, I say all of them. This one for sure.
They're all chewy and meaty and juicy.
But the first one we can all get behind very easily, because it's regular competition for wins from multiple teams.
Yeah, I agree. And the reason being, look, you've got another... Look, if Mercedes are the top engine, right? Now, we don't know that. It's all new power units. It's all retro. But we
don't know it. That's right.
But if you think that Mercedes have been dominating the last few years of Formula One, both themselves and now McLaren, you've got Alpine now coming in with Mercedes. And everybody all last year was talking about the fact that Mercedes should hit the ground running. Now, that's because they're basing it on historical content, which is the last change we had. They came in and they dominated. But we don't know that to be the case.
There's also been rumors floating around for a while now about Mercedes having a leg up. And some of those we're talking about the rumor that we talked about on the last show, but some of them go back way before that. Just, the stuff in the paddock that kind of, I think that leaks out slowly.
Sure.
But no tangible leaks that I know of.
No, and if you want to throw a spanner in what I just said, Honda. Honda are the dominant engine. They only have one client now, and that is Aston Martin. So should we be expecting Aston Martin, quite frankly, vying for podiums now, straight from the get-go?
Yeah, it's very true. We could. I mean, look, Adrian Newey's been in the office. Now, I say in the office, a lot of he's been working for Aston Martin for how many months now?
Oh, yeah, at least 18.
Yeah, so that's, I guarantee you that's having an effect, whatever that looks like.
He's gone through 2,583 HB2 pencils.
Yes.
But, throw another one in there. Alpine now with Mercedes power. We've seen what Gasly can do. I say just Gasly because the other Colapinto and Doohan really didn't contribute much. But Gasly was on his game, especially towards the end of the season.
Yeah, and hasn't he impressed since he's been there? Really, ever since he left Red Bull.
Yeah,
just about.
No kidding.
Hey, there's also something else. Casey, I want to play a clip that I've got in the folder, because speaking of Chris Medland, it's actually about 2 minutes, but it's really good because it's talking pretty much about the same topic, where regular competition for wins from multiple teams. He has a very bold prediction here, in my opinion.
Okay.
He's saying that Red Bull is not going to compete for wins. Let's hear. And by the way, this clip is from the ePar Trade YouTube channel.
Sure.
And we'll talk more about that right after this clip.
Yeah.
It's a huge unknown. I don't mind sitting here and saying publicly right now, I'd be surprised to see Red Bull winning races in 2026. It's a huge undertaking to become a power unit manufacturer when you never were one in the first place, where you don't have a road car arm that maybe has some of that expertise to lean on. That is part of the reason there's a Ford partnership, and there's a lot of good knowledge there, certainly from the battery technology. But Red Bull's initial intent was just to essentially have someone help put a good badge on the engine, give them a little bit of help in certain weak areas, but they wanted their own control. That, you know, this is Formula One, where teams wanted everything in-house and they want to feel that they're in control of their own destiny. It's something that Red Bull struggled with in the past. If you go back to 2014, they had the Renault power unit. It was terrible. Sorry, Renault. But 2014, when we started, it took a lot of work to get it competitive. And Red Bull blamed Renault a lot for the lack of competitiveness they had, because they said, we've built a good chassis, we've built a good car. If we had a comparable engine, we'd be winning races and championships. And we're not in any form of way able to do that right now, and have to end up switching to Honda. And that's where the success came from. So Red Bull wanted to have more control. And I think Ford have had to show, hey, this is what we can bring that really will help you. But even that settling down takes some time, because it's not an existing partnership, and because it's a new power unit set up at Red Bull. It's not like they knew already where they were weak. They only find out where they're weak once they start running their power unit, having built it. So there's so many unknowns there, so much new stuff to be covered. That's where I feel like it would be a real surprise to see them fighting at the front for wins. Flip side, though, is this is a team that's always built a car that's able to win races from an aerodynamic point of view, and it's got a driver that's definitely able to do that in Max Verstappen. And the turnaround this year has been incredible. So if they can follow that next year in terms of their starting point and improve on it quickly, then by the end of the year, they may well be showing the signs that they will be winning races and championships again very, very quickly.
I tell you what, if Chris were sitting here, I would bet against him, just because that's a bold.
No, I'm actually with him. And I kind of, if you remember, I've been saying this, it's a very, I mean, it is, I know Ford's history in Formula One. There's no big, more successful engine manufacturer. But this is a leap of faith because it is a new engine rules and a new power unit rules versus the electric side as well. It's complicated. Ford obviously know what they're doing making engines in any form of motorsport and any form of car. That said, this is such a high-end hybrid thing. And as he was talking then, I was thinking about how Honda was the panacea for them. And yet 2 years before that, Honda were McLaren's loss. Yes. They couldn't get a win to save their lives. So it does go an ebb and flow, and Honda have had their moments, and they've had a fantastic run of late. Renault, obviously, one of the most successful teams as well, with engines in the past. But those days are gone. We all know Mercedes and Ferrari. And let's face it, what's the answer to whether Ferrari are going to be competitive or not?
Whether
it's engine.
Yeah, whether they can.
We know they always design a good car.
Yes.
And a fast car. But the engine, not reliability, but just generally speaking, has not been at the same level, I don't think, as Mercedes over the years.
I would agree with that.
And I think it's going to take time, at least a year, for Ford to bed in. But is it going to be enough for Verstappen to stick around, especially if Aston Martin start achieving?
Well, you just said the word that I was thinking. The reason that Red Bull always has a chance right now is Max
undoubtedly,
Verstappen.
Yeah.
So I just would bet that they're going to get a win this year.
But I like the prediction because it's realistic.
I do too.
And it kind of
it's bold.
Well, like you say, he laid it out there. They've got the magic dust, which is Verstappen. They've got a good team, but a lot of that team is depleted now, including Adrian. Look what they did at the end of last season with the exact team that they're going to start this season with, pretty much. And so, they know how to sort problems out. But it's going to be a learning curve. I don't know. I think what Chris is kind of alluding to is this is a decision that Red Bull made 2 or 3 years ago when they were in the mix of talking to Porsche, right?
Yes.
Because they wanted to have their own power plant, which is unusual because even Honda, the boffins are in Japan and they send those boffins over to try new things and then they take it back to Japan. This is something that Red Bull, Horner included, wanted to do out of Milton Keynes, and they wanted to kind of, as you say, control their future. And when you're working with a Japanese manufacturer like Honda, you may be successful or you may be out in the cold. And as we've seen, 2 teams, McLaren and Red Bull, have had different experiences. I think Ford, just like GM, will come at it, and Audi will come at it professionally, brilliantly, but it'll still take time. It's Formula One. You just don't you don't take a college quarterback and turn him into
That's right. He
Tom Brady
step onto the field.
day one.
That is the best analogy I can think of right now that I've heard anybody use, and that is you could be the Heisman Trophy winner, unanimous Heisman Trophy winner.
Season 3, you expect him to start throwing the ball.
A Super Bowl, right? Yeah.
Very hard.
And that's a perfect segue into the next one, that Cadillac isn't too far off the back. That's one of the other wish lists that Chris had on there. And it's for the exact same reason. In fact, I saw a Collentine listed on his website, racefans.net. He listed all the teams and all the drivers, and he ranked them. He ranked McLaren number 1 because they've got 2 great drivers. Then he listed Mercedes, then Red Bull. But he put Cadillac at the bottom. And I wondered if he would do that. But
all right, who's going to be worse than Cadillac?
Well, the only one that I could think of, Behrman Ocon, maybe.
Well, I was about to say, as a parallel, that's who I'm going to compare. Is Haas with 10 years experience, and the same engine, and Cadillac coming in with big money, big power, big prestige, but you would give the advantage right now and then, like you say, they don't have. I mean, Behrman and Ocon are not fools. But nor are Bottas and Perez. Yeah. I think it's going to be an interesting battle, but I do think it's going to be a battle for the back of the grid. Because Williams will be better. Alpine will be better. Name me another one. Midfield team. Aston Martin will be better.
Yeah.
I'm running out of teams that will be potentially not at the front.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's going to be tough for Cadillac. Let's face it. It's
as expected.
That's exactly right. That's exactly
what we can't do as Americans.
That analogy of a college Heisman Trophy winner is perfect.
Well, what you can't do as Americans is go, it's sport, man. I want my team to win. No, it's not. That's just not going to happen. I mean, of course they could get a win in the rain or trying something different.
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah, exactly. I speak of things you know. I have still kept my torch alive for the Cowboys, but they let me down again today. But hey, how about them Texans? Won by a point.
That's funny. Last week after we left or 2 weeks ago we left the show, and I used to be such a huge Cowboys fan, and I was thinking I just need to start following the Texans. And
well, to be honest, actually, in a weird way, it's a really good season. It's a very wide open season for the first time. I mean, teams like the Denver Broncos and Miami Dolphins, who haven't done anything in years, are suddenly coming up to the fore. You see the Seattle Seahawks; they're good. The teams that you perhaps wouldn't have expected to be right up there. San Francisco 49ers lost out yesterday. But they've had a great season. So it's weird.
Speaking of Denver Broncos, did you see Lewis Hamilton was there a couple of weeks ago?
He's a part owner, isn't he?
Yeah, it's probably like a single-digit percentage.
Let's start a rumor. Red to orange, in comes Lewis, wide receiver, number 44.
That'd be a good position. Maybe either wide receiver.
My God, he would be quick.
DB, maybe.
He'd be fit. He'd be determined.
He'd absolutely.
And
I don't know how quick
I bet he got some spins
on his
in.
feet, but I do like that. It's a good prediction. All right, well, let's sneak a quick break in real quick here to listen to your Sunday Night with Speed City. Back after these messages.
Look at me with my Americanisms.
Yeah, look at you.
What's going on?
It's real quiet on the YouTubes. Everybody's getting into the new year. But let's see what we got coming
Do you know
up.
this is the longest running advert in the history of radio?
I don't even hear it. Which one is it? The Ducati?
It's the first one we ever did.
Oh, my gosh. So that's from 2012.
Yeah.
It still works. So I didn't talk about the other wish list ones. I hit the 2 that I really wanted to. But the other one, I think I want to touch on when we come back. Hamilton and Ferrari.
Oh, yeah.
Bill Ricker's here. He says, Happy New Year, Speed City. Thank you, Bill. Back at you. All right.
You'll be pleased to know.
Yes?
I have done our show, but I'm not happy with it.
Oh, okay. Our other show.
I'm going to send you home with some homework.
Okay.
And to a certain extent myself.
All right, here we go.
I'm George Russell, and you're listening to Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
All right, before we move on to the next topic, I want to do one more from Medlin's 2026 Formula One wish list, and that is he wishes that Hamilton and Ferrari would finally click. And I'm with him on that one. I do too.
And I'm with him for a different reason, for Charles Leclerc. If they had a championship-winning car, it would be fantastic to see Leclerc take it to Lewis, and Lewis find himself up what I would argue is probably the hardest opponent after Alonso, back when he started.
I saw a nice tweet from F1. See if I can quote it from memory, but it was a list of all of the list of podiums.
Yeah.
Not podiums, poles, poles for all the drivers.
Yeah.
And Max Verstappen had a clear lead, but right behind him, and it was Leclerc and Checo was actually up there. Because of the early days of the
Vettel would have been up there,
the downforce era. I mean, of the ground effects era.
Yeah.
So, but the fact that Leclerc was right up there.
I mean, he's a one-lap wonder, that guy.
He is.
But that tells you something about. That's like talking about Verstappen and how he overdrives. Can get something out of a car that nobody else can.
Yeah.
And to be fair, the truth of the Ferrari story of 25, and I know we're going to talk about 26, but the truth is the Ferrari was not good enough. Leclerc made it a front row starter, but in the races it went backwards every time.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a good enough car. Leclerc drove the wheels off it. And Lewis, by his struggling, you don't win 7 world titles and forget how to drive. The car was not good enough.
Yeah. And I was thinking about these rules and Ferrari and the fact that the ground effect era was the type of car that Max loved, right? It turns out. But I think with Lewis Hamilton, I think maybe the opposite. I don't know that, but I feel that, nobody knows that for sure except for Lewis himself.
I think we are going to see idiosyncrasies, i.e. it's going to create different driving styles. I also think, as we discussed before Christmas, that it's going to be a thinking man's game in that the use of the different overdrive, boost, etc., and the new aerodynamic wings is going to lead more to driver and engineer decisions about when to use boost, when to use boost, because you can get electrical power not just from braking, but by engine braking too, by drifting into a corner a little bit and maybe saving. So I think the intelligent drivers who are thinking long term or thinking I got no chance here, so what I'm going to do is this. Or I'm going to rag these tires out and do 10 laps on them and use loads of boost, see if I can get up the board, then put a pair of soft. You know what I mean? There's going to be more strategy, which I think is going to be harder for us as pundits and commentators to perhaps keep up with because we may not get the information at the time. We'll see visually somebody doing an overtake, but how did they do it? How much did they use? I'd be interested to see how Apple and Formula One work together on giving the information that we need to be able to tell the story right.
Ooh, that's really good. I can't wait to see and it may be 27 before we see much from Apple.
Yeah, I think there's going to be some teething problems. And in fact, that segues to another story you've got.
Well,
in terms of judgment.
Which one?
Basically, first we were going to discuss what the new things were, and then we were going to discuss how you can adjust.
We were both going to segue into it because I was going to say yours is the perfect segue because what I want to talk about is all they call it, the story on F1.com is the terminology update, but it's essentially a summary of all the updates. But the first one is overtake mode.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to read this is straight out of F1.com. It says, for drivers within 1 second of a car in front, sound familiar, to deploy extra power to instigate an overtake. It replaces,
under 1 second?
Within 1 second. So same as DRS. It replaces DRS and aids on track passing, being a strategic tool to be used all in one go or over a spread of a lap. So think about that.
And how many of those
subtle
do you
difference
get?
Of those. I think it's unlimited. But what I thought was interesting about that is that the words in there, it says to deploy extra power. And that sent me down a rabbit hole. I was like, I think that they're talking electric power only. So I used every tool in the book looking around. And yes, it is the electric power because the way the electric power is set up, that it would run out of power before the end of a lap if you just did it normally. But they're going to, under this overtake mode, they're going to allow the engine to produce So because the engine can produce electric power, right, by generating power. So it's pretty complicated, and I'm still digging into it. But the bottom line is that it's sort of like push to pass.
Let me put my Machiavellian Alonso hat on and say, okay, it's a bit crowded at the front right now. I'm going to take an early pit stop and come out in 18th place. But I'm going to zip through the field quickly because I'm going to use my overtake mode because I'm going to be with one. I'm faster because I qualified fourth than most of the guys out there. So I'm going to be able to take advantage of that quick pit stop by doing strategy.
So the way I understand it, the defense for that is the next topic we're going to talk about, and that is boost mode. And let me read this to you, and you may answer your own question. It says, this is the driver-operated energy deployment tool from the ERS, the Energy Recovery System, to be used offensively or defensively, depending on track position. It gives the driver maximum power from the engine and battery at the push of a button, no matter where they are on the track. And I'm assuming where or when in the race. So what you just described, then everybody can...
Again, how much do you get?
Right. We don't know yet. And here's a good little story about that. And that is...
and the reason
Nicholas
I asked... Go on.
Tumbazis, the FIA single-seater director, says, we are still fine-tuning that, referring to overtake mode.
Right.
So this is... And basically what that says is that...
Work in progress.
That all of this is a work in progress.
So
they're going to see how the season goes.
They can see how Australia goes. And
that's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
I don't like that. I don't like the rules changing within the season. But I also think, I think it does scratch the head a little bit in terms of deployment and when and how much. I keep using the example of IndyCar, which I like. You get 120 seconds and you have a graphic that says Dixon has used 10 of his 120. Colton Herta has only got 70. You can then tell that Dixon will stay ahead of Herta for the simple reason he's got more boost. Yeah. Now, I hope we'll get to a point, and it may not be next year, but I hope we'll get to a point where and I know AWS has been working on the graphics for the last few years, and they're not going to miss this. I'm not going to be the only one that comes up with this idea. Plus, they've done a lot of audience research, which started you this story, which is to get the names right: boost, overtake, make it simple, make it for the passing fan, as it were.
Right. If somebody's just getting into the sport. That's
so I think they've done their due diligence on this. Certainly from a fan point of view, whether it works, I like the idea that they've given themselves the leeway to go, that didn't work, did it? I mean, when DRS came out, we were farting about for a long time going, well, it's too big, it's too long, we need 2 DRSs. And there was some oddness, but we, look at the times, look at the races in the end of the era of DRS. And you would argue, actually, they got it right.
Yeah, look at how close the racing became. I mean, and they tried to do that with DRS and all the other rules, and probably more importantly is the cost cap, trying to get that closer because a team can't just, Ferrari or Mercedes or Red Bull can't just throw zillions of dollars at it and fix the problem.
It's like anything. You can't get the best minds in the world going to 24 races and not kind of, expect to be beaten by a rule system. That's what they're there for. That's what they spend hours at night drinking pints in little pubs in England thinking about.
Was it Adrian Newey? He said, some mind like Adrian Newey said something like, don't tell me what's in the rules. Tell me what's not in the rules.
Yeah. And that's what he's done. And that's, and you could count back various championships, from Ferrari cheating with their fuel a couple of years ago to the double diffuser that won Braun his championship and Jenson Button.
But to me, there's a big difference between cheating
and
finding what's not in the rules. Right?
I agree. That is motor racing.
Yeah, that is motor racing. And that's for new people, they kind of have a hard time getting their head around it at the beginning. And then they go, okay, that does make sense.
One of my favorite things, having done Trans Am over the years, is it goes back to Roger Penske in the 60s, where they would dip their cars, their production-based cars, in acid to lighten the load of the aluminium, and only until a steward put his hand on the...
and crumpled it?
Yeah, crumpled it, literally went, hang on a minute.
So what's wrong with your car, buddy?
A beer can here, this isn't a car. So, and I feel for the drivers who had to drive these tin cans.
Yeah, truly, think about it. The crumple, they're one giant crumple zone.
But that's motor racing, and let's not, like you say, don't call it cheating. It is finding an advantage where no one else has.
What do you say to the people that say they don't like all this artificialness in racing? The same
I'm not a big fan.
Right, but I don't know, because it's such a complicated equation, right? You have to please sponsors. You have to draw in new manufacturers. That's how we got here, right? That's a lot of how we got here. Trying to bring in Audi and Porsche and Cadillac is reducing the complexity of the power unit and removing the MGUH and all that. So what do you say to them?
It's hard. And also, I would factor in now, compared to the Bernie era, which was long and distinguished, but he didn't give a flying fart about the fans. He was running a series and trying to make money, which he did. But now Liberty have to worry about their growing audience of fans, which is making them and the franchises billions of dollars.
Yeah.
And so they have to give them an entertainment feast that is quenchable and not understandable. You know, if you're an Oscar Piastri fan and you're an 18-year-old girl and Oscar's your guy and he's not winning, you're going, why? And we're going to say, oh, well, he hasn't got to grips with the new car and he hasn't done this and he hasn't done that. Well, that's not enough for a fan. They want to see the best out of their driver. They don't want to see him struggling. They don't want to see Lando struggling. They don't want to see anybody struggling. We don't want to see Hamilton struggling.
Yeah. And just think about next year. We don't know who's going to struggle.
Right.
What if Red Bull doesn't win a race? What if Red Bull is?
They'll bring back Horner.
What if Red Bull is 7th in the constructor standings?
I'd love it.
9th.
I'd love it.
I know. It's just
Alpine beat Aston Martin to the title.
Yeah. Yeah. Aston Martin really, to me, maybe not 26, but soon. It's all that money and all that talent's got to come to fruition one way or the other here.
I think so too. And I actually think that, we were talking about Verstappen. I actually think that is where his head is going to be closely swiveling towards, which is, look, Alonso's on the way out. Stroll's a flick of a thing if you make a phone call to his dad and say, hey, I'm available, I'm better than your son, then there is no argument there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. All right, well, let's get another quick break in. And when we come back, I want to talk about an American from New York making his way up the single-seater ladder. Back after this. All right, still quiet on the YouTube front. Let's look at what we got coming up here, Greeny. The other things we were going to talk about, if we can squeeze time in, is Active Aero and Recharge.
Yeah.
We'll touch on those.
Yeah, we should. Yep. Don't leave those two out.
And let me look at your stories. Let's see. That's funny you put the same one in. Definitely got to talk about Colton Herta and all of this.
Yeah, I think
we'll talk about the Cadillac thing.
Also about the sort of, if you like, I can speak to my opinion on Herta's decision.
Sure,
because it's a very unique decision, and
absolutely,
and a risky decision.
Yeah, to leave a sport where he was having a lot of success.
Yeah,
yeah.
He's been champion.
No, I do not think so. No, he was. I mean, he's finished high this year. What did he finish? 5th this year? 4th?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Coming back.
Hi, this is Max Verstappen, and you're listening to Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
All right, before we get to that young American that we want to talk to you about, I want to finish up our last topic and talk about two more of the regulations from next year. Active Aero. I mean, this one has kind of gotten most of the attention, right? Because it's replacing DRS and it's active wings both at the front and the rear of the car. Let me just read the F1.com, and this is the only official thing right now. It says dynamically adjustable angles of the front and rear wing elements in specific high-speed sections designed for corner and straight modes. It enables strategic adaptability and maximizes full usage of the car's power through greater on-track grip. But essentially, that means that they can adjust the front and rear wings to either give them DRS-like straight line speed, very low
straight line,
very low drag,
and then more downforce in the corners.
And more downforce in the corners.
You know, I actually think, even though that doesn't sound very sexy, again, I think it'll come down to how it's used well and efficiently. But also, I think it's one of the few things of the new changes that will actually end up affecting the production market.
That is literally what was on my brain.
Okay.
I was just thinking the same thing.
I know it exists in many of the high performance cars like Porsche and so on.
Yes.
You can adjust the wings, but I think as a safety measure, to be able to have that automatically in your car or in conditions that are slippy or wet, that you get more downforce and you can actually adjust the car to create a grippier situation. You go your rain mode,
Yeah,
exactly. And then you go high speed mode or track mode.
Well, so in the production cars, I think it's a GT3 RS that's like, it's an enormous, like 2,000 pounds of downforce. But what I love about this is that they're going to come up with something. It's Formula One. They're going to come up with something that nobody's thought of and that can be implemented. Not just the fact that it is there, that they're, because road cars love to at least visually emulate race cars, whether it's a hood vent that goes nowhere or a wing that does no drag. But when you get to the high end, especially that high end the bar keeps lowering every year, that less expensive road cars get more and more cool stuff, that we'll see some sort of something that we hadn't even thought of, an active aero that probably evolves from this and goes to a production road car, all the way down to a Mustang, let's say.
And then in the racing terms, could there be a combination where you don't hit the boost until after you've used the straight line speed?
Sure.
And then you clear the car by hitting the boost once passed, giving him no opportunity at the next corner to overtake you.
Yes, talk to Nicholas Tumbazis about that.
All right.
And give him that, send him an email, tell him that's your idea.
Okay.
But also, there's some of the controversial things that have been discussed have been how that could be enabled like under yellow flags or in rainy conditions.
Yeah,
I think we touched on this a little bit in one of the previous shows, but that active aero could be controlled by the FIA and the rule set that says, hey, if we're in wet conditions, if this is declared a wet race,
you cannot use.
That's right. You have to stay in full downforce mode.
You can't use the straight line speed.
Right. Which think about this. Think if that happened and it was let's say it was full race for the full rain for the entire race, and you have plank wear issues then because the car's in full downforce. Maybe it's just the right conditions where the cars are going fast enough, but they're in full downforce mode, so the plank wear stays, the car stays low the whole race, and you could get plank wear and disqualified. So there's all of that has to come into play.
Well, and going back to DRS, Jack Doohan's downfall was in Japan when he didn't close the DRS in time, and it caught him out.
Yeah.
Threw him into the wall.
Well, and the example of disqualified for plank wear is McLaren in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
It had huge championship implications.
Yeah.
So they got to be careful about that. Okay, and the last one is recharge mode. And by the way, the reason that they redid all the terminology, because they had all this crazy stuff like X and Y mode and all that. But the official language on this is drivers can recharge their battery with recovered energy from braking on throttle lift at the end of straights and even corners where only part power is applied. That, by the way, I don't know how much of that has been, a lot of people don't realize that Formula One has had energy recovery, hybrid systems, all the way back at 2009, I think was the original, something like that. But some of this may be trickling the other way because of the acceleration of Tesla and all the electric cars and how this stuff has been going on for a long time. In fact, you get in some cars, you can put it in single pedal mode, right? For example, as soon as you lift off the gas, as you ease off, not lift off completely, but just even ease off, that can make a difference in the way the ERS works, the energy recovery system. Or some of them have a pedal.
Do you get a form of engine braking? I know that's an old term, but it's not engine braking, but it kind of is. In other words, do you let off and does it create a slowing down?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. In fact, if you've driven an electric car, especially a pure electric, it is very noticeable. In fact, they have to adjust the brake lights if you let off. They're getting more and more efficient at that. They're getting better at that. Like the early Teslas, when you let off, it wasn't enough. It didn't slow the car down enough to where you think you need a brake light, but now it can, that because all that technology is changing, so they can really stuff a lot of energy back into the battery. And when you let off if you hit full recovery mode or engine braking, recovery, engine braking, all kind of the same feel. But if you do the full mode on electric, it can really slow the car down to where somebody behind you might ram into you if your brake lights don't come on. So they do. They come on, just like you hit the brakes.
Perhaps, okay, I'll give you one example. What interests me about this, and I don't know if I'm physics-wise right about this, but it says recovered from braking. Now, okay, let's take turn 12 at Coda.
Yep.
There's not a lot of difference in where you brake in a Formula One car, regardless of what car you're in, at that corner, right?
Okay.
Let's say it's 150 meters, right?
Okay.
And so all the cars are doing that. But if the other part of it, so you get some energy, you get some ERS from that, right? But if in the corners where partial power is applied, in other words, can you drift through a corner differently than you might like turn 12 at Coda, where you get some ERS early on, then let off, drift through the corner, and get more. I don't know.
I think the answer is no, and here's why. And this is purely just I hadn't thought of this till you just said it, but like in road cars, a lot of cars that have this are all-wheel drive. They have electric motors at the front and the rear, but this is all rear-wheel drive and rear-wheel recovery.
Yeah.
So in other words, you're still limited by how big is the contact patch on an F1 car, right? We know how big it is on a MotoGP bike. It's about that big.
Yeah.
But on a F1 car, let's just say that doesn't change. So you're still limited by the traction of the rear tires, right?
Yeah, and you know what? I was watching the MotoGP review show over the weekend, and it was interesting because it annoyed me that there's a rule that's come in. I say it annoyed me, but it was one of those false DRS type rules where they were struggling with a rule about pressure in the tires. If you had too much pressure in the tires, you could get pinged and given a penalty, a long lap penalty in MotoGP.
The Tom Brady rule?
Kind of. Yeah, kind of. But do you understand the physics? In other words, what they would do is they would drop back, lose pressure, and then go on again. And it was like, but if you went over, you could get a penalty. And they can all see it on the thing. I wonder whether PSI will come into this equation, given that you are using the brakes as an energy source.
I'm certain there's PSI rules already.
No, yeah.
But I don't know how they're
set.
going to change them. Yeah, I don't know. It's a good question.
If you're determined to use the maximum ERS, let's say, do you go higher or do you go lower?
So the first thing that comes to my mind
how does the heat work?
Is that low PSI is great in the corners.
Yeah.
As long as the bead the tire doesn't rip off the bead, but high PSI is great in the straights.
Yeah.
Because you get, the shape of the tire changes when it's like this with low pressure. It's like this at high pressure.
Yeah, sure.
And you get less rolling resistance at high PSI. So,
and again, in qualifying, will you be able to cool down, go again? Will you be able to, there's a lot going on there.
That begs the rules on what you can inflate the tires with because different.
Oh, wow.
This is just like
I bet there's a rule for that too.
Yeah, I'm sure there is.
You couldn't put your own nitrous in.
Well, it's just like the cheating that they've been talking about with the compression ratio we discussed last year on the last show of the year, where different metals heat up and expand and contract at different rates. Well, the same thing goes for whatever you inflate your tire with. That's why you can get nitrogen. That's actually not the only reason. That's one of the reasons why nitrogen in your road cars is a thing. They say that is because it leaks less because the molecules are bigger. But anyway, that's a whole different topic. But
I mean, I wonder if you could mess with the mixture that you pump your tires with.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we said we were going to talk about a young American.
Yes.
And Jonathan, I'll let you take this story.
Ogu Ugochukwu.
There you go.
Yeah, from New York, 18 years of age.
And we've been we've been trying to say his name for a couple of years now.
I know, I've got better at it. And he is his mother's Nigerian, hence the name.
Yep.
His father's Italian, but he grew up in New York.
Born and raised, New York.
And has raced all around the world. He's been a McLaren junior. He has been feted right from the get-go as a potential American to go all the way. And he's still only 18. Forget the exotic name. He's good. He's won Macau. Yeah. You don't win Macau unless you're really good.
And you know what? I like the fact that he's either a combination of things. He's got the money, and he's got the talent to go straight to FIA F3, not just the regionals.
He's already been there.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
That he's been there, and the fact
this is going to be his second season.
Yeah, that he's competing there because that's where you're going to compete against the best. There's the FIA Formula 3, which is run in Europe. Then you have all these regionals that, like we have here in the United States, and the one you're talking about, FRECA, in New Zealand, the Oceania
Oceania, yeah.
Championship.
I think that, and again, the beauty of the Oceania Championship, especially in his case, and in the case of Freddie Slater and Wharton and our own Cooper Shipman, is that they don't know the tracks, they don't know the car, even though they may have raced Frecker. It's just different. I mean, like one of the rounds is at a is it a volcano? It's right by a volcano, so there's volcanic ash on the track that really grates up the tires. You got to think about this. It's Pirelli. There's all sorts of things. So this will sort out, men from the boys, and you'll get some interesting fights, as it were, and we'll start to see just how good he is in places he's never been.
So. We'll also get to see just how good Cooper Shipman is from Austin, Texas.
And if you don't remember who he is, 17-year-old Cooper Shipman, Austin, Texas, went to school across the road from here, 100 yards from
literally
where we are.
Where we're sitting, yeah.
Homeschooled for the last couple of years, but won 9 races in a row in Formula 4 for Kiwi Motorsport. He's going down to New Zealand with Kiwi Motorsport, representing Austin, Texas, the first single-seater champion we've ever had. Very excited for him. And if anybody's out there listening who is a journalist or wants a good story, you got one.
Yeah.
And I'll happily tell it you.
And if you think that 9-race record isn't just something to blow off because was F4, the last person to hold that was Kyle Kirkwood.
Yeah.
So, all right, well, let's take our last break, and I want to talk about an NBC special that aired yesterday on IMSA when we get back. You listen to Sunday Night with Speed City. Back after this. All right, the YouTube is lighting up a little bit. Joe of Oyster Bay, Tim says, it's Sunday? What day of the week is it, Tim? I've been struggling with that.
I know.
Man, I really disconnected, Jonathan. I
Monday Night Football on Thursday.
On a plane vacation, but I disconnected.
It doesn't matter how you disconnect.
Man. I really did.
Good for you. I tell you what, I think as we go further, pile into the AI computer world that we all live in, I think that the healthiness that doctors will advise us is to shut down. Literally.
Oh, yeah.
Shut down.
Absolutely.
I don't care what you do, Mr. Massengale, but I don't want you to look at a computer for 10 days.
Well, you know me. I push it at both ends.
I've learned in this last year, because I haven't been traveling as much, to pace. It's like, I'm not going to watch TV. I'm not going to do this. I'm going to read this book for an hour.
And I'm also not a young man anymore. It's a little harder to do than it used to be.
Join the club.
Oh, man, there's tons of good discussion here. And you know what? I may roll some of this into the radio.
What are they
show.
talking?
Well, let's see. They're talking about Sunday first. All right, we're coming back.
Go for it.
Hi, this is Jay Leno from JayLenosGarage.com, and you're listening to Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
All right, welcome back. I'm going to bring in some of the conversation that we're having with the team on YouTube, because we have some experts that know as much or more than we do.
How much do we pay them?
Yeah, that's the board.
I shouldn't have said that. They'll be on now.
The advisory board of Bill Ricker, David Lawrence, and who else is on?
Yeah.
Yeah. They're holding it, and Tim, Joe of Oyster Bay, is on there. They're talking about the language. They were going back to what we were talking about. And David says the language is much more catchier now. If F1's catch on, to be determined. 2009 for Kurz.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, he says, but I don't think he's right about this. I don't think everyone used it that year. Everyone did not use it in the early years, and I'm pretty sure 2009 was the right year. So, Jake braking, Bill Ricker called it, which is a trucker term.
Oh, right.
When you hear a truck going down the road, it goes
brrr,
popping real loud. That's essentially engine braking.
Yeah, and the signs saying "Please no engine braking," for the next 4 miles or whatever. Yeah, because it's so loud.
And that was for diesel engines. Yep, I think only. Yeah, David Lawrence says he's heard of Ogubuchu. So.
Good. And there are others, by the way, lots of others.
Yeah.
We will be keeping you up. I'm beginning to become our junior correspondent. Not that I haven't always been, but I should continue to, follow FIA F3, Frecker across the world, Super Formula for sure. Some really good international stars in that, and Japanese stars coming up, especially now that Toyota are part of Haas. For example, Rovanperä, the double rally champion, is taking part in Frecker for the first time, turning away from rally to go into single-seaters
Yeah.
at 25 years of age. So if you think Colton is doing something special, watch out for Robin Perez. It's a great story.
Great. Well, that's a great segue. Let's talk about Colton Herta.
Yeah.
Because we'll talk about Cadillac and Colton Herta. And let's start with the Cadillac story because it's going to take just about a minute because we don't know the story yet. And that is Cadillac has teased an announcement with a cryptic post
I know, I saw that.
on Facebook. And I don't know if you've seen it, but it says, it just says, Reflections of the Future. And it is a picture of what appears to be a cat's eye and with some sort of reflection, looks like a window. And down in the corner, it says 01/05/26, which in American means January 5th, which is tomorrow, 2026.
My sister's birthday.
There you go. And lots of comments about maybe Zhou Guanyu
Because
because
he's just been let go by Ferrari.
exactly, and the timing was okay. That's interesting timing, and I could certainly see that. And we don't know.
How important for Cadillac is the Chinese market? And I know that's a little bit of a stretch because he's a bona fide Formula One driver.
That's a good point, though.
But,
I think it is very important, actually.
Okay.
In fact,
Well, GM, yeah.
yeah, for GM for sure. And by the way, Cadillac is doing really, really well in electric car sales.
Okay.
And electric car sales are booming in China. In fact, Tesla just got dethroned as the world's leader in manufacturing in volume of cars. I don't know about dollar volume, but in unit volume by a Chinese manufacturer.
So if it came to be, that would make Colton Herta and Guan Yu Zhao as potential Cadillac
That's right.
reserves.
That's right. But we don't know that. We don't know what it is.
Okay.
So you can speculate till you're blue in the face, but pay attention to they posted this on Facebook. But yesterday, I believe, they joined Threads.
Yeah.
I haven't spent much time on
God,
there,
no, I haven't done
but I
Threads in ages.
did. Over the last 2 days,
Good.
and I like the vibe there.
All right.
It's kind of an upbeat vibe.
Have you gone Blue Sky yet?
No, I have not gone blue sky, but there's too many
I
out
know.
there. There's too many. I can't. I've joined Twitter 2008, and that's been my primary.
Invented in Austin.
Yeah, that's right. In fact, I was there the day I was in at South by the day it got announced.
Yeah, I know. Pretty wild.
Went into their booth. So that's probably one of the reasons why I've been a little partial to that. But anyway, so watch Cadillac for tomorrow. We'll see what happens. But Colton Herta.
Yes.
I know you were wanting to talk about Colton. Look, this is such a bold move, I think is really the big thing we talked about earlier, for him to leave a successful IndyCar career. I mean, you got to figure globally, IndyCar, I always consider it the second fastest to Formula One. Super Formula could make an argument, and maybe Formula 2 could make an argument, depending on the day of the week and the track and all that. But to leave IndyCar, having a successful career, that's a big deal, what he's doing.
It is, but not for Colton Herta. And there
Explain
are
that.
okay. There are 3 or 4 guys in IndyCar who have a mindset that says, "I know I'm good enough for Formula One." Palou is one.
Yeah.
I actually think Kirkwood's one.
I was going to
too.
say Kirkwood too,
Um,
but you could say a lot of the names.
Colton Herta. And by the way, they're racing Formula One drivers from
Newgarden, but they
Newgarden. That was my fault.
They enforce the rules tighter in F1.
But the truth is, I think all of those 4 guys we just mentioned there are all capable of doing Formula One. And the fact that they're racing against Grosjean and Ericsson and Marcus Armstrong every weekend shows that but he is at a turning point in his career, and as he says in his own words, this is my last shot at Formula One. And he was always on the path to Formula One, as was Pato O'Ward. And I think actually Pato's going to lose out, unfortunately, unless something happens or a driver has an injury or God forbid, but something goes wrong. But in Colton's defense of this rather strange maneuver, it is the perfect way, in my mind, to get into Formula One. You're going to learn Pirelli tires. You're going to learn the tracks. You're going to be up against the next Behrman, the next Antonelli. Yeah. And in fact, in the case of Richard Verschoor and a few others, they've been there. They've been there, done that, and they haven't had their shot yet. So he's going to be in a highly competitive environment. The Pirelli tires are not easy to get on with. But the biggest factor of all, he's going to be on the headphones with Cadillac, going through and learning every problem that Bottas and Perez has, 2 of the greatest of their generation, who are great feedback, good guys. Colton will get on famously with Bottas and Perez. And I think that for 26 is almost the perfect way to get into Formula One.
That's a really good point.
I mean, all right, give you an example. What if they said Hadjar wasn't good enough and they pulled in Colton Herta? That could have ruined his career.
Absolutely.
And it would have been a much harder
going
hill to climb.
into any Red Bull team is going to ruin your career.
Yeah.
If it's in this instance.
I think Hadjar's got to go kind of sideways a bit, but I think Hadjar, with the new rules, will miss a bullet because of it.
Yeah.
He's got the same starting point as Verstappen. I don't expect him to beat him on a regular basis, but I think he's going to have a damn better chance than any of the other guys who have been before.
All right, I want to make sure I put this in when we got about 5 minutes left, is that I recorded it, started watching it, got interrupted, but NBC put out a cool 1 hour special.
I saw it advertised, yeah.
IMSA series. I started watching it. It's Lee Diffie, Calvin Fish, I can't remember who else. And they do it from the Daytona garage, obviously with Daytona in 3 weeks.
Yeah,
Wow. I looked at flights just for the heck of it, just to see.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I talked to my buddy who's doing, Ryan Yardley, who's doing Daytona in a Porsche, the current North American Porsche Carrera champion. So I'm going to be following his progress for sure. And of course Colton will be at Daytona racing for Cadillac. I think that's right. Something to put on everybody's calendar. You want to see what kind of you want to judge Colton Herta in a pretty much non-Formula One, but very competitive field. Let's see how his stints are versus his teammates for Cadillac in
Stepping
Daytona.
into something he doesn't race every day.
No.
I'm sure he's done. Hasn't he done Daytona before?
He's done Daytona before, but even so, he's now with the factory Cadillac team, and those guys aren't slouches.
No.
In sports cars.
Yeah, my son's prepping I think he spent a little bit of this weekend prepping the Optimum Ferrari for Daytona. They got to get it out of there, it's here in Austin.
So what was your take on the...
Oh, I didn't get to watch it yet. I'm just telling everybody to go look it up if you...
It's so funny because when you brought it up, I was like, I didn't see it. And the reason I didn't see it is I started watching episode 1 of the Indy series on Fox. With Buxton and the boys. And it's another attempt at a sort of Drive to Survive, but not done that way. It's done much more in Hinchcliffe's mind and in Buxton's mind and from the driver's point of view. And it's clever because it treats you like, if you've never seen an IndyCar race before, then you can learn quickly. So, for example, they say, round 1 at St. Pete, they start with, well, if you want to be an IndyCar driver, you have to win the 500. And so they kind of, they start with the pinnacle and then they kind of build back up to it and then, the 2 championships. So that, and I only saw parts of the first episode, and what my mind was, I watched and it said, IMSA, blah, blah. So I might go back and I would, given that we got, if you're as hungry as I am for racing and there's no racing out there until Daytona, watch some of those. They're good.
Yeah. And also, don't forget, I'll remind everybody until the Super Bowl happens, but Cadillac, releasing their livery in a Super Bowl commercial.
And the first launch, and I think we're going to dedicate...
That's what I had up, yeah.
Okay. The first launch is coming up next weekend, next Sunday.
Are you sure? The 15th?
Yeah. I got the 11th or 12th.
Okay. I know that Red Bull and Racing Bulls are going to do it in Detroit, and which
is very cool.
Let's see if F1's got them all. I had them up earlier because that would be cool. Yeah. It is, the first to announce is Red Bull and Racing Bulls in a joint event on January 15th.
15th, okay.
Yep.
All right.
Then Audi on the 20th, and we'll go through all these.
23rd's another one.
And also the Honda Power Unit launch on the 20th, of course.
Okay, that's a 20th of January or
Exclusively
February?
with Aston Martin, that's right.
Okay, and then...
Alpine 23rd.
And then 8th of February, which is Super Bowl day, halftime. And one of the great ads will be GM's launch.
That is...
Or at least to look at the car. I don't know what they're going to do, but...
Yep. That's going to be really cool. I'm wanting to... I want to get more involved with Cadillac. I've exchanged a few emails with them and stuff, and I want to try to get more involved with them and just try to get some access. I know Chris will get access. We had Graham Loudon on a couple times last year, the team principal. And I think Chris, didn't he run into somebody else maybe that gave us an interview? But I know Graham Loudon has been on a couple times. But I definitely want to get more.
Well, we want to get them involved in what we're doing too, because we can promote them. We can get, maybe give out some prizes, some merch, whatever.
Exactly. Oh, that's right. You were talking about that yesterday. Give away some T-shirts. And
Yeah,
stuff,
why not?
but- all right, we got less than a minute. Any final thoughts, Greenie?
I'm excited. I mean, I know it's only January 4th, but I'm excited for the year ahead. Australia's a great place to start the championship. I'm glad we're going back there. I think the launches are going to be more interesting, perhaps, than in many years, because we are looking at something very new. I think the liveries are going to be interesting. I mean, we are going into a new era of Formula One that is bigger, better, and bolder than ever before. There's more money involved. There's more prestige involved. America is right at the forefront. There's no doubt about it now. This is truly an American sport in many, many ways. And so I'm excited to be riding that wave, having literally going back to the mid-90s, been trying to bang the drum for Formula One coming to America.
When we couldn't even get anybody
I know.
to watch or listen. All right, well, thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you next week.
Happy
Appreciate you
trails.
tuning in.